B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach. We are talking about relationships, and tonight I want to, B'ezrat Hashem, focus on a very important aspect of any relationship, but specifically when it comes to marriage. The Torah tells us at the beginning of the creation, right, we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem, after creating Adam, it says Hashem vayipach, Hashem blew neshama. Right, Hashem blew neshama. Hashem took person's Adam's body from dust, from dirt, and he blew the neshama, right, ba'apav. By the way, when you say blew neshama ba'apav, that's the reason, because originally it used to be that, there was no sickness. People just would sneeze and they would die. Right? Because the same way, why sneezing? Because the same Hashem blew the neshama in, so the same way it came in, it would go out. Right? That's why it's customary, like in all culture, when somebody sneezes, they say, libriut, asuta, gesund, because it used to be, right, just the same way it came in, Hashem blew in the neshama, and then the person would sneeze, right? It says vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim vahi adam nefesh chayim. So the onkelos, right? Onkelos, it's a translation of the Torah, which is not just a literal translation. It's a lot of time major commentary, built into the translation. Onkelos says. Translates unefach ba'an pohi nishmeta dechayei v'havat be'adam leruach memalela. Right, so Onkelos says that this, when Hashem blew the neshama in Adam, he was able to speak. So the power of speech, this is the ruach, this is the neshama. We have neshama. Neshama is the power of speech. That's the expression of neshama in us, the ability to speak. And we know that the Zohar Kadosh says that the neshamot, they say, he found or she found his or her soulmate. So the Zohar Kadosh says that the neshamot, that the souls are together. The souls of husband and wife, they're together up there in Shamayim. Hashem separates them and sends them separately here in this world, and then they meet each other and they become one. So marriage, it's like the neshamot coming together, and the Zohar says that the neshama, it's like a diamond, a sapphire, and they said the only way you could polish sapphires, it's like by rubbing them against each other. We just had tonight here by Israel Tower. He's a very internationally renowned speaker. He was here on behalf of Yad L'Achim. So first time I heard this Zohar from him. Right? It says when you mentioned something that you heard from the original sayer of it. So then you bring Geulah, redemption, closer. By Israel Tower. So he was saying the only way that you could shape a diamond. Wow, this is a blackout. This is a blackout.
This is a blackout?
Yes.
No, it's not.
Okay, so we could continue. I don't think anything dangerous. Oh, yeah. Do you want to check down so maybe somebody is, where is he working? So it says, so the only way, the polished diamonds, like you rub one diamond against another diamond. You don't take metal blades or something to do that. It would cut it. Diamond, it's so hard. The only thing that could really shape a diamond is another diamond. Like the blade that they cut diamonds with, it's made of sapphire or diamond. Because only that material, it's strong enough to be able to cut through the diamond. So the Zohar says that our neshamot are like diamonds. For that neshama to be shaped when it comes to this world, it takes the rubbing against another diamond, right? Which is relationships, right? The relationships, it's all about these neshamot, these souls rubbing against each other, and through that, this neshama is, so to speak, shaped, and it comes to its completion. So therefore, that's why the Torah says as a kenegdo. That's why the Torah says that it doesn't marriage. It's not about the two people that they look alike and think alike, and they see things eye to eye, and that's the purpose. It's not. It's as a kenegdo. It's by rubbing against against each other in a proper way. That's how those neshamot come to their completion, so to speak. So a major way that this is done is through communication. If neshama is ruach memalela, if having a neshama, right, it's like the power of speech. So the way we relate to each other, the way we communicate, the way we talk to each other, this is the major way how the neshama really comes to its completion, and that happens, that takes place on a daily basis. The way we talk to each other and we communicate, it's all about what the neshama is all about. And the Torah there is one of the negative commandments of the Torah is ona'ah. The Torah says, Al tonu ish et amito. It says, do not. Ona'ah. It's repeated twice in the Torah. Once, in one instance, ona'ah means cheating financially each other. The Torah talks, over and over about not stealing, but honesty and integrity, and it's also expressed through ona'ah. And then when
we have to do with that,
it's the internal thing actually.
Is somebody working on it though?
Next thing has the
he already called DWP.
Okay, fine. As long as somebody is working on it, that's fine. So you see, there is this ona'at. There's also there's ona'at in two ways. One is financially hurting somebody, and then there is another shape of ona'at which is even more severe. That is, it's called ona'at devarim. Ona'at devarim is like by hurting another person. When we hurt somebody's feelings by words, this is considered even more severe than cheating him financially, or even inflicting upon him physical injuries. This is according to what the Torah says. Ona'at devarim, it's much more severe. It's like I'm sure you have heard when we were kids. There was one of the stories we had in our textbooks in Iran. It was this story about the lion and a human being that were friends. And the deal was that the lion would provide the food in that relationship. So once the lion is delayed in bringing the food, and the friend, the human being, teases him and about you were lazy bones, where were you, this and that. So the lion, having the pride of he was insulted. So it says that the lion took a sword to his friend, to the human being, and told him to give him to hit him on his forehead. So he didn't want to do that. He said, "No, you have to do it." He forces him to do it. So when he does it, so he hits the sword on his forehead. So then blood gushes out, and the lion screams and runs away. And then he comes back after a while. And when he comes back, he tells him, "Look at my forehead. It's the wound that you inflicted on my face, it's gone. But the wound that you inflicted on my heart, that's not healed." So this really reflects what the Torah says, that ona'at devarim that on at devarim, like injuring somebody with words and injuring their feelings, it's considered a much more grave sin in Torah's view than injuring them physically or financially, right? And it's all that's why this being so careful, right? The way we communicate with each other, and it happens a lot, unfortunately, in marriage also, right? You see, I was talking to a couple that they are more observant, and the type of insults when they have fights, they exchange between each other. So I told them, look, this is each time you're doing that, you consider yourself religious. It's you're putting it's mitzvah asemi deoraita. It's like you're stepping on a Sefer Torah. It's like this is what the Torah says. The Torah regards ona'at devarim, like injuring and insulting with words, more than even physical things. Fortunately, we don't have the right yardsticks for describing. I was talking to somebody was saying, they want to say somebody is religious, he's Shomer Shabbat. But Shmirat Shabbat is just one aspect. It's much more accurate to say this person is Shomer Mitzvot. That he keeps the mitzvot in totality, not just Shabbat. It's not Shabbat. It's not just kashrut. You remember we spoke about this. The Torah says, Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha, when we hold a grudge. A few sessions ago, when we spoke about grudge, holding a grudge, every second that we have sin, we have hatred towards another Jew, and that another Jew could be our spouse. We are really we are disrespecting what the Torah says. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. It's a constant avera. It's a constant sin. Unlike not keeping kosher, etc., which is a few minutes and that's it. So when it comes, so this the way we act with it, the way we communicate, that the respect that needs to be maintained in a relationship, we are dealing with major biblical, right, commandments, positive and negative. See, we don't have the electricity now, but
Does this help? Yeah.
what?
A light.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Very good. So you see, Rambam. It's very romantic this week, right? So it's very befitting to the subject. Right, okay, I could use this. Beautiful. When Rambam says on the way Jewish families have worked for
Just push any button.
right for thousands of years, he says וכן ציוו חכמים שיהיה אדם מכבד את אשתו יותר מגופו. Right, the Chachamim have they have commanded us that the person should respect his wife more than himself, the ohava kegufan, to love her like himself, respect more than himself, right? It says halachically, a person if it comes to it, the man has to save on his expenses for buying accessories for himself to the benefit of his wife, right? It says so it's mechabda yoter megufo. When it comes to kavod and respect, she comes first, and ohava kegufo, and to love her like himself. Ve'em yesh lo mamon marbe betovata kefi mamono, and he should, according to the bracha that Hashem gives him, support his wife. And it says ve'yeh diburo ima benachat, right? So Rambam emphasizes more than anything the dibur. He says, as far as financially, this and that, to take care of her according to what Hashem, the blessing Hashem gives him. But Rambam emphasizes ve'yihyeh diburo ima benachat ve'lo yihyeh atzev ve'lo ragzan. Rambam says when he comes home, he should not be atzev, he should not be sad, depressed, ve'lo ragzan, and not to be angry. This is next week's Bezat Hashem topic. But you see, diburo ma benachat. And Rambam says that as far as the husband is concerned. When it comes to the Isha, to the woman, he says she has to respect her husband, beyoter midai. Since us men, we have a lot of ga'ava, we have a lot of we are big shots. So that's why Rambam emphasizes that he has to respect him like a king, etc. But you see, it's interesting that Rambam, I don't know, maybe things have changed. But Rambam says, "Yed diburo ima benachat." That the way he speaks to her, he has to talk to her in a calm manner. Right? Usually, what I hear, it's like, ladies raise their voice a lot. But, you see, it's a lot of things. It's very interesting. You see, after the original sin in the Torah, it says, Hashem said, "V'hu yimshol bach." Hashem said that the man should rule over the woman. Right? But they say now, they say before Mashiach comes, the end of the times, these punishments diminish more and more. Right? You see now, for instance, it says be'etzel tel libanim. It says like childbirth would be with a lot of pain. Nowadays, even that has changed. Baruch Hashem, it's not as dangerous nearly as it used to be. Childbirth, and so the pain. You have all these painkillers, etc. It's not the way it used, epidurals, etc., etc. It's not. So David Cohen, one of the great sages of this generation, he says all these aftermath of this original sin and the punishments are diminishing when we get closer to Mashiach. So it's all the relationship between husband and wife is also the same thing. It's not the way now you have all the in Judaism always ladies had a very 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 high the respect that Judaism has for women you don't have in any other religion. I think Judaism is the only major religion that it goes according to the mother, not the father. Like being Jewish, it all depends on the mother, right? Low battery, right? So
that's okay. You can use a light.
So you see, just tonight, when Rabbi Taber was here, there are articles here that when they went to Gaza to save Jewish kids, they're Jewish kids, like when they are unfortunately Israeli Jewish girls that got married to these Arabs. Right, so they're Jewish kids in Gaza. So they went in there and they brought some of these kids back, and they had bar mitzvah for them, etc. Because the mother is Jewish, the kid is Jewish, no matter where this kid is. There was another case. I was just dealing with a couple that they had problems from New York, not from here, and they went back to Iran. He took her back to Iran. The girl is from Iran, and the family is from there. So, and he went there from New York. They got married, and things didn't work out the way it should be. So he figured he doesn't want to just leave her in America. He doesn't have any relatives. He took her back to Iran, and he just somewhat tricked her, and he left and came back without, So I told him, and he has a baby, and I told him, look, baby is this is you have responsibility. You can't aside from all the other things that are wrong, this you have responsibility to unfortunately this guy was involved with all sorts of non-Jewish girls before, and I told him, look, you have to count your blessings. You have a Jewish kid. Finally the mother is Jewish, and you have to do anything within your abilities to raise him as a Jewish kid, whatever it takes. Hopefully he's going to listen. But the idea is that so Rambam says, what Rambam emphasizes more than anything, he says, Veye diburo ima benachat. The dibur, the way we communicate with each other, it has to be in a respectable manner. That's everything. It's and unfortunately, as I was telling you, this couple that were, when they start fighting, and all the the way what is being exchanged between them, it's constantly stepping on a Sefer Torah. Nothing short of that. When that respect is not maintained there. So there is a book that I would like to introduce to you by Dr. Wickler, Wikler. This is an art scroll book. The title is 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day to a better marriage. Right? 10 minutes a day. That's all what it takes. 10 minutes a day to a better marriage. Getting your spouse to understand you. So there's an article there, one of the essays there that I wanted to just to dwell on a little bit tonight. That it talks about really effective communication, which, as we have seen, right, it's really fundamental to any relationship, and especially when it comes to marriage, right? How to communicate effectively and respectfully with each other. So he has, we're not going to have time to go through the whole thing, but some of the points that he brings out, again, if I repeat the name, if you want to get the book, I really highly recommend. It's a very practical book. So a lot of times you go to therapists, you have, therapists are different kinds. Some of them are more directive. Some of them are they're analytical, and they want to go to your childhood, and you have to go. And really, in a lot of cases, this is the way really to solve the problem. You need to go back to the roots, etc., etc. But you see, I like more directive type of counseling. And what Dr. Wickler does in his book is he's very practical. He gives you, and for some cases that they are not as involved, right? This kind of self-help books could be very, very helpful. There's some cases that you need therapy, whatever it takes, right? But he's very directive, and the book is a very good book. 10 minutes a day again. So the title is 10 minutes a day to a better marriage, getting your spouse to understand you. Dr. Meir Wickler, Wikler. It's an art scroll book. So some of the points that he brings out about in effective communication. First of all, he says timing is very important. Right? A lot of times, next week again on anger, we're going to dwell on this more. Right? Not always. The Gemara tells us also, in Bishar Ka'aso, when a person at the time the person is angry, you can't really communicate with them. Right? So any kind of effective communication, it says, be sure your spouse is listening. Right? If your spouse is not listening, you're wasting your time. And sometimes we are not ready to discuss something. So it would be really advisable to communicate. Honey, could we talk now? Is it a good time to talk or not? Right? And he that's what this Dr. Wickler has been, he has very good reputation as a very effective therapist for, 40 years he has been practicing, I don't know. So he says, verbally it is advisable to actively check out your spouse's readiness by asking, can we talk now? Right? Is it a good time or not? If the answer is no, to be very, not to get agitated, etc. I say, when do you think would be a good time? Right? Sometimes, maybe even be another day, a few hours. So this is. I know a person that is unfortunately involved in his divorce. He was married to a Jewish woman and is divorced, and he has a non-Jewish girlfriend, and he gets along with her very well. So I talk to him a lot. So he told me, see, she knows how to. This person has anger, has temper, unbelievable. That's what ruined his marriage. You see, she apparently, this girl knows how to. She says, okay, I know we cannot talk now. We're going to talk a few hours, another day, and it's really, and she's able to tame him, right? And it takes, and fortunately, temper temper is enemy number one. Right? I told you the Talmud, the Gemara, the Talmud has its ways of giving the messages. The Gemara in Masechet Sutta says that when temper enters marriage, uncontrolled temper, it's like having worms in sesame seeds. Sesame seeds are tiny. Right? So if you have anger there, you have temper, uncontrolled temper, forget about it. Right? And then it's destructive beyond, I think probably I shared with you their statistics from the Jewish Federation. Not a religious thing at all. That they found out that over 80% of kids that intermarry, they marry out of Judaism, they come from homes that the relationship wasn't the relationship wasn't good, right? That the parents were constantly fighting, etc., or divorce, whatever. It says that over 80%. It's very interesting statistics. I wanted to see what contributes to assimilation, and this came out to be the fact. The most major one was Jewish education. It was proven beyond any questions that the more years of Jewish education a kid has, the less the chances of intermarriage. Clearly, and again, the American Jewish Federation, it's not a religious thing. They're not religious. They have all So this is a correlation that was found to be clear cut, and another correlation was if there was peace and harmony and a good relationship at home, the chances of intermarriage were clearly would diminish, right? And vice versa. So be sure your spouse is listening. 2, always when we have discussions that it's like we want to criticize at certain points. There are certain points that need to be discussed and resolved. It's and this is also we learned from the Torah. We learned actually from the Navi. Begin with something positive, right? When it comes to King Shaul, Melech Shaul, was a very interesting personality. He was, on one hand, he was a big tzaddik, very righteous man. On the other hand, he had problems. But you see, it's very interesting that when Hashem wants to criticize him first, Hashem also mentions to the Navi his virtue, his good points. First, he's praised, and then he's criticized. So they say this is very important between husband and wife also. So Dr. Wickler suggests, he says, begin always with something positive. Whenever you need to have a serious discussion with anyone, it is always advisable to begin with something positive. Right? Obviously, it has to be sincere. You can't, you can't just check it b'mahal keshidan. It's worthless. Just to write, to say Tarufai Irani, things that don't exist. It's just it loses its effectiveness. But it's always, as I said, we learn it from the Navi. Right? Hashem, when we are talking about Shaul HaMelech, Hashem wants to criticize him at first. Like they say in Abisal Salanter, once he wanted to admonish one of his students. He had done something. So he waited for 6 months till he had something truly positive to praise him for that, and then he went to him, and first he told him the positive, and then he criticized him for whatever, as a mentor. But then he waited for 6 months till he had a real positive thing to say. I told that to somebody that he has a problem with his wife. He said, even if I wait for years, I won't find anything positive. I want to wait for that. And that's, you see, if you go back to the first session that we had, one of the first sessions, from Tomer Devorah, you see always, remember, he said, Chafetz Chesed, the Jews were worshipping idols. You're doing murderers, everything. But Hashem looked at one positive thing that were chesed, they were giving charity. You always, you can't, it's impossible not to find, some positive things. It's impossible, right? Always, if you look, careful enough, you'll find something. So, and this is not just between husband and wife, it's in any relationship. It says when we want to criticize, always begin with something positive, real, not to make up things. Something that there's some positive thing that that it's real, and then we could bring up the issues. So, what's the reason for that? Because he explains people automatically become defensive when they hear someone beginning with negativity. I mean, nobody likes to be criticized. We all love compliments, and we hate criticism. This is obvious. Our egos would right away be alert. But if the same comments were preceded by a compliment, people would be vastly more open to consider what they are being told. So this is very, very good advice, and as we said, has heavenly roots to it. That whenever we need to discuss something, and issues do come up, I told you, like married life, it's like living in a submarine, right? You always have frictions come up, and we just said tonight, it's like the diamonds rubbing against each other, right? That's how the diamond gets polished. So frictions, it's the name of the game. It always is going to come up, but how to resolve them, that's something that really takes an art, right? So always to start with something positive. Next, do not attack. Right? So he says the best way to avoid attacking your spouse is to try to frame your comments using I. Right? I think maybe it's better to do like this. Instead of saying, you know good, you always do this, you do that, right? The minute we are attacking, right, it becomes a ping pong game. That there's not going to be something substantial that's going to take place. It's going to be constructive. It's going to be just a game, right? So do not attack. It should be right the way it's framed. For instance, the example that he brings, he says, it's talking about probably an older couple that they had a dispute over how much they should support their children, right? So he says this is a real case that apparently they came to him. Maybe changed the names. He says Zev, the husband, was very stingy about giving monetary gifts to their married children. His wife, she felt that he was selfish when he insisted that he wanted to keep his money for himself. Instead of criticizing Zev with unflattering terms, Sarah, his wife, learned how to express her feelings in a less confrontational manner. Right? So, for instance, he says I would like to give some money to our children to help them with their upcoming holiday expenses. Right? That's how she, instead of you don't, she comes with I think that's what we should do, and I hope you'll. And you see this way. So he says this type of strategy, with this couple worked very well. 4, and this is very important. Do not exaggerate, right? When it comes, we want to, we have this tendency of, globalization that nothing is good, everything is bad, and so exaggeration, it's destructive. It says now, psychologically, why do we exaggerate, right? Exaggeration is one way in which we vent our feelings when we are upset. Right? This is very normal. When people are upset, they exaggerate. But we have to realize that this is in the context of if you want to have a effective communication, this is destructive. This may relieve our inner tension, but it does not do much to promote marital harmony. It doesn't help. So once your spouse hears any slight exaggeration on your part, they're waiting for it. Whoever, they're waiting, they're exaggerating, so then they're going to write off everything. So once they detect, that even a slight exaggeration, so he or she will feel fully justified in rejecting everything you have to say. because it's like it disqualifies everything. Just throw it away. And you see, David HaMelech tells us, you see, a person that is really a person that wants to grow, the only way to grow is through constructive criticism. We do not see our own faults. We have to realize that. And who better than our soulmates, our spouse, if there is a loving relationship, that we should hear our faults and try to work on it. David HaMelech says, you know, Bakamim alay mereim, what's the rest? Tishmana oznai. Bakamim alay mereim, tishmana oznai. David HaMelech says, when mereim is like when evil people, they stand against me and they curse me out and they criticize me, I open my ears. Wow. I open my ears because maybe there is a grain of truth in what they say. For sure they are exaggerating. But it's because of the Melech says, because if you're surrounded by all kinds of yes men that only praise you, etc., you're not going to find your own faults. Especially people that have temper, etc. Nobody dares tell them what a with Abrus. Right? This is, you know, so David HaMelech says, Bakamim alay mereim. When people that are mereim, people that are my enemies, when they get up against me and they start like, you know, lashing me out, tishmana oznai. I open my ears to see that maybe, for sure they are exaggerating, for sure they have ulterior motives, no questions about it. They're my enemies. But since my friends would not tell me my faults, I would hear it from them. But you see, you know, we have to cater. We have to realize people do have egos. We all have egos, and we don't want to hear that. That's why we should try to act in a smart manner. Not, you know, as we said, the timing is very important, right? And also not to attack. We start with the praise, etc. And it's also very important not to criticize on the spot. Right? They say compliments need to be immediate. Right? You know, if you tell your wife after a couple of years, oh, the supper was delicious a few nights ago, it's avar zamanu batel korbanot. Compliments, this is the rule. Compliments need to be immediate. But when it comes to criticism, always it's assumed to criticize on the spot. You do not criticize on the spot. You have to wait. You have to wait till it's sha'at kosher. It's also, again, if you even at work with workers, etc. Compliments should be on the spot. But when it comes to criticizing, we have to sit on it. Sometimes we saw Rabbi Salanter waited 6 months, right, till he had something positive to say. Anyway, so not to exaggerate, it's very important, because exaggeration, what it does is, like, you know, they are going to just disregard anything that you had to say. Even if there was a grain of truth in what you said, you lost it. Next, do not mind read. Many people like to play like psychologists and figure out what others are thinking. Right? You don't really care about me. These kind of statements, like, you know, I'm reading somebody's mind. You don't really care about me. You know, another statement that is like, you know, it's like, you know, reading somebody's mind is, you knew that would upset me and still you did it. How do you know? How do you know that you knew, you know, it's like you're reading somebody's mind. Or I know you don't really mean what you just said, or, you know, right? So they say, like, you know, that this is, you know, mind reading. Do not mind read it. It needs to be clear. Is that what you meant? Right? Guesswork should be taken out of communication. It's very important, really, to say, you know, in our culture, it's hitting around the bush. Unfortunately, it's very, very common, right? Not to be, you know, it's like, you know, one thing is, and you see, when I came to LA, I really had problems because of this. Because, see, I grew up out of Iran. I was 13, 14 years old. I left Iran. I was in Israel and then in America. So when I came to LA, I really got burnt out a few times. I would deal with people and they would tell you something, but then you see they really totally meant something else, right? So then somebody told me, he said, look, when Persians talk, there is subtitles. There is subtitles. They tell you this, but they mean something else. So you see, I mean, so you see, if both parties, right, are communicating the same way that he's saying something, but you read the subtitles, so then it would be fine. But you see, if one of them has subtitles and the other one doesn't, then it's a problem, right? So, anyway, I don't want to be...
The other one doesn't know he's supposed to read the subtitles.
That's right. Second, somebody comes and, praises you and more, so, he wants something big. More, if there is a hole, anyway. So, fine. So where were we? We have just a few more here. Just, okay, clarify, the next thing is, so don't read minds. Right? Don't guess, must be, communicate directly. Then the next one is clarify your needs. Right? Again, this is like related to that. We need to be specific. A lot of times, spouses, women especially, right? They don't, they expect their husband really to read their minds, right? I was talking to a couple, so they had gone to visit his mother-in-law, and she's the mother-in-law is, very, very advanced stages of. She's very old, and she even doesn't recognize anybody. Alzheimer's, big time. So the way it transpired was that the husband was very understanding. He was very supportive of his wife, etc. So then afterwards, after they came out of the nursing home, wherever it was, so then we're talking about a religious couple. So he took Tehillim and he was saying Tehillim. And she was besides herself. So he told her, look, why didn't you tell me that? So I didn't understand. I thought, fine. The idea of the thing was, and she acknowledged that he was very supportive up to the point that went and the visit, and it was a very difficult visit. It's heartbreaking. These situations Alzheimer, when they become also very abusive, it's not their fault. So he didn't realize, you see, apparently ladies especially, after these kind of things, they need to talk about it, they need to process it, they need this and that. Men are not like that. Men and women are very different. I'm sure everybody read this book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. You see, all that book, the Gemara, the Talmud in Masechet Shabbat says in one verse. It says, Nashim Am Acher. Talmud is talking to men. So it says, ladies, it's a different nation. Like you go to China, you go to Japan. It's different, things are done differently. It's different ways of communicating. Men don't have these kind of needs, and especially men that don't have sisters. This is you see if you have if the woman doesn't have any brothers, or the husband doesn't have any sisters, it's a recipe for a lot of, because you see, you don't understand the mentality. Right? You don't understand. Men and women are very different. Right? Nashim amacher. So you see, in this case, he thought he was very happy with himself that he was such a good husband, and he was very supportive of her and talking to her and giving her support. And okay, look, consider the alternative. Baruch Hashem, at least she's alive. She's this, that. She's in high 80s, etc. And she acknowledged that he was very supportive. Till after the visit, she wanted to process. They need to talk about it. Right? We just saw in Tehillim that there is, I saw validation for that in Tehillim also. That people need to be that validation. That after something, I use always to make fun of it. But you see, when I see the Melech talks about it, then it becomes legit. Right? So you see, so he said something that she didn't have an answer. He said, look, so why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that, honey, I need to talk about this. And if she would have said it, the problem would not have erupted. Because I asked her, does he love you? She said, yes. He said, yes. But he's dumb. He cannot read. He can't read minds, and men are different than women. Right? So that's why clarify your needs. Communicate. I don't like Or Mesabzi with this and this. Don't make guesswork. Like, whatever it is, it's good to, open communication would be, and don't expect them to read the subtitles. So, fine. So you see, so he says some people have a difficult time spelling out what they want from their spouses. I shouldn't have to ask, they insist. He or she should know on his or her on her own what I want. Right? If I have to ask, then I would rather not have it at all. See, this doesn't do anything to the relationship. If a person would express the need, right, in a loving relationship, usually would not be a problem to accommodate. And next, this is very important, limit yourself to one or two topics. That when you have these kind of sessions of airing out the problems, etc., to come with a long list, and also see, I always say the Torah tells us that by animals, and animals that chew its cud, it's kosher. If it doesn't chew its cud, it's not kosher. But a human being that chew its cud, it's taref. It's not good. You don't go back on bringing. It didn't start now. From 10 years ago this happened, and 15 years ago, and the other day you remember that. And also when you come with a long list of issues, so then it loses its effectiveness. So he says, although it is quite prevalent, kitchen sinking is extremely, he calls it kitchen sinking. Even all the dirty dishes and the kitchen sink, everything is bad. Everything needs to be, even the kitchen sink needs to be washed, so to speak. He says, it doesn't work. You see, he suggests 1-2 points, not more than that, right? He says the speaker has, when we do this kind of bringing long laundry list, so to speak. So then that all these things that need to be laundered. So the speaker has guaranteed that no one topic can be explored in depth. It is far better, therefore, for the speaker to be selective and choose to address only one, or at the most 2 issues at each communication session. And this communication session is not every day, obviously. It's once a year, or whatever the need arises. If you have to wait a few months to find something positive, so automatically that spaces out these kind of conferences, so to speak. And the last point, it says, allow time for questions at the end, right? So in other words, after we present the issues that we think need to be taken care of, it is always a good idea to stop speaking before your spouse loses patience. It's very important. Before, it's like, somebody was saying it's like, boiling milk. You have to be careful. When it starts boiling, forget about it. Then you're going to have a mess to clean up. The art is to stop before when you see it's brewing, stop. Because otherwise, I don't know if you ever had to clean up,
Oh yeah.
اینجا که اصلا شیر جوش نمیاره تو ایران خیلی but it's a big mess to clean up. So anyway, so it is always a good idea to stop speaking before your spouse loses patience, and allow him or her to ask you questions. It is only through the questions of the listener that the speaker's words are fully understood. You would not learn very, very much attending a class, including this class, I guess, if no questions are allowed. Fine. So these are, again, it was based on this great book, highly recommended. If you have any questions, please feel free. So next week, it's a biggie. It's about anger. Yes?
Can I turn this on?
Huh? Fine? Yeah.
What if you want to talk to your wife and she doesn't want to listen?